quick graphs using our slope-intercept form. So this is coming from our textbooks. It's Chapter 4, Section 6. So we have Chapter 4, Section 6, quick graphs. Using our slope-intercept. Alright, so we know that a linear equation, remember linear is a straight line, is in the slope-intercept form when it is written in the form of y equals mx plus b, where m is our slope and b is our y-intercept. So if we have an equation, we can tell a lot about that, and if it is going to be a straight line in our linear equation, and we can graph it. So let's take a few, for example. Let's use an example of y equals 3x plus 1. Well, this is already in our slope-intercept form, so it's pretty easy to determine that our slope is 3, and our y-intercept, which we use as b, is a positive 1. Let's do one that's a little more difficult. If we have y equals 6 minus x over 3. Now this is not in slope-intercept form, so we're going to put it in slope-intercept form. So this is the same thing as saying y equals 6 over 3 minus 1/3 over x. But again, it's not in our mx plus b. So we are going to continue, and we are going to put it into y. All right, and we're going to see that our slope is negative 1/3 x, and then 6/3 reduces to plus 2. So now we know that our slope is a negative 1/3, and our y-intercept is 2. So if you put it in that form, you can find out all of the points. Now here's one. Y equals negative 2. Ultimately, what this means is y equals 0x minus 2. So that would mean that there is no slope, so your slope is 0, and your y-intercept is a negative 2. And again, when you have a 0 slope, that means you have a straight line. There is no angle on it. Now, what if we want to graph an equation like this? So if we were to graph it, there are a couple steps that you need to follow when you are graphing equations. So graphing equations. So our first step is to make sure, and if it's not, write the equation in slope-intercept form. So if I have an equation like y equals 6 minus 3x. That is not in slope-intercept form, so I'm going to rewrite it in slope-intercept form. So I'm going to write it as y equals negative 3x plus 6. So the next step is to find your slope and the y-intercept. Find the slope and y-intercept. So remember, our slope is m. So with the equation in slope-intercept form, we can figure out that m, which is our slope, is a negative 3. And our y-intercept is 6. Next, you are going to plot the points that you just found, which is your slope and your intercepts. So let me show you how to do that. What you're going to do is, let's get some lines here. So we're going to have okay, be patient with me here. So we know that the points that we found was the slope, -3, and our thing. So what it is we plot the points of 0, B. And in this case, our y-intercept is 0, 6. So here's our graph. We're going to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so I take this and I say, okay, 0, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So here is my y-intercept. Then you are going to use a slope triangle with our graph. So what that means is we know that our slope right here is -3. So m is -3 over 1. And remember, this is rise over run. And you also have to remember that it's a negative, so it will show a negative slope. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to draw my triangle. So I'm going to go, I have to make this one more bigger. So I'm going to start here and I'm going to count over 1, that's my run, and since it's negative, I go down to 3. And I plot my point right there. And then I take my line and I draw a straight line. Oh. Try that again. And then I draw my line through my points. And there you have graphing an equation. It's much easier when you have it on graph paper. And I will learn how to do that soon. That's my next goal. Let's do another one though that we had said before, which is y equals -2. Well, we had said here that the slope was 0 and our y-intercept is -2. So, just to show you this, if we have our graph this way, and we said that our y-intercept is -2, so here's -2. And since there is no slope, there is no angle, then that means that our line just goes straight through like that. Now, another part of this is talking about parallel lines. So, recall, parallel is when two different lines in the same plane that do not intersect are considered parallel lines. Okay? Well, this is a big point. Parallel lines have the same slope when you put it in the slope intercept form. These can be vertical lines, like we had seen before, up above. They can also be non-vertical lines that do have a slope. How do we tell? Well, let's do an example. Let's say that I have two equations and I have y equals negative 3x plus 2, and I also have y plus 3x equals 4. Well, first I put them in my slope-intercept form. Well, this first one is in slope-intercept form, so I find my slope. My slope here is a negative 3. This one is not in slope-intercept form, so I'm going to subtract my 3x on both sides. And I'm left with y equals negative 3x plus 4, and find my slope. My slope is a negative 3. So you can see the slopes are the same, so these are parallel lines if you were to graph them together on the same graph. Let's do another one. Let's say we have 3y minus 4x equals 3. And we have y, 3y over 3 equals negative 4x plus 9. Oh, I'm sorry, it was 3y equals 4xy. So here I'm going to divide by 3 on both sides. Let me rephrase that. So this was, I'll rewrite them in a different color above it, 3y equals negative 4x plus 9. And this is 3y minus 4x equals 3. So, try this again. We're dividing, so now I'm left with y equals negative 4/3 x plus 9 over 3. Y equals negative 4/3 x plus 3. Now, over here, I am going to first add 4x. So now I have 3y equals 4x plus 3. Divide by 3. Y equals 4/3 x plus 3 over 3. So y equals 4/3 x plus 1. Now we have them in slope-intercept form. We have to find out what our slope is. So here our slope is a negative 4/3, and here our slope is a positive 4/3. So these are not parallel lines. And then the last part of this is trying to figure out if you have a graph and they give you a graph, how do you figure out what the slope-intercept equation is? So, we'll do a couple here. So where you're going to go, we're going to do these bigger. It'll be easier to see. So they give us a graph that is there and there with a line that goes through this. All right, there's our first one that they want us to figure out. Our next one looks like this. And they say, here's our graph. I want you to write an equation to tell me what the slope-intercept. So remember, we want it in the form of y equals mx plus b. So you go through and you keep your y. So on this one, we keep y. Y equals, well, our slope. We have to figure out what our slope is. In order to do that, we can now kind of go through and figure out what our rise is and what our run is. So here, if you start down here, you can see that we go up 1, 2 is our rise, and then we go over 1, 2, which is our run. So this would be rise over run 2 over 2 x plus our y-intercept. Then you can see here, and if you go here, 1, 2. So this right here is our y-intercept, and that's plus 2. Then you reduce, and you are left with y equals 1x plus 2, or y equals x plus 2. And you look and you see, yes, that's a positive slope. So we have a positive integer in front of our x. Now let's look at our next one. Y equals mx plus b. Well, let's try and find out what our m is. So if we start here, we say our rise is 1 and our run is 2. So I say y equals rise 1, run 2, x. No. Sorry about that. And then we say plus, and here is ours. So actually it's not plus because it's a minus, or bam bam, minus 1. So you are left with y equals 1/2 x minus 1. So there you have it. That is our lesson. And in class, we will be doing I will tell you. So in class, you want to look over these, especially to find out if you have questions. We're going to be doing page 244 to 246, number 13 through 55, every third one. So I hope you guys have a great weekend, and we will see you Monday.